First name is Ovid, O-V-I-D. My middle name is what I go by. It's Odean, O-D-E-A-N. And the last name is Solberg, S-O-L-B-E-R-G.
Great. And when were you born and where were you born?
When was I born? I was born in middle of January in 1929 over in the eastern part of the state.
Great. And could you talk about your family at the time?
Well, they went through some awful hard times. They both came from large families. My dad only had a 7th grade education, and my mother an 8th grade education. But they had the one thing that they don't teach in school, and that's common sense. And I have 4 sisters and 1 brother, and us kids were always their #1 priority. We always came first. So I have a lot of respect for my folks.
Absolutely. Did you graduate high school?
Yes?
Where did you graduate and when?
Little town of Garden City, South Dakota, and graduated in 1947.
So, were you drafted or did you enlist?
No, I was drafted.
And when did you get the letter?
When did I get the letter? Oh, I suppose it was maybe later on in the, probably in the fall of 51. I was already married and everything, and I was farming with my dad.
So you got the letter then?
Yeah,
In 1951?
yeah,
And did they tell you where you were going to go?
no. No, they just sent me off to basic training and
Where'd you go get basic training?
Fort Sill, Oklahoma.
And then straight afterwards, did you go to Korea?
Yep. And, got a few days of leave and shipped out to Korea right away.
And do you remember when that was?
Well, it would have been probably, let's see, I left home in February of 52. And we shipped out of Seattle, Washington.
And do you remember where you landed in Korea?
Yeah, I landed in Busan.
And what was your first impression when you landed?
Well, it was new to me, of course, and I was never in a building in Korea. I never went by some of the bigger cities, but I never got into the city itself. And so all the villages that I was close to were demolished. So there was never any buildings to be in.
And where were you stationed?
In North Korea.
And
Yeah.
what unit were you a part of?
I was with the 3rd Infantry Division. They were on the front line all the while I was there. That's where I was at.
And do you remember the town in North Korea that you were stationed at?
Oh, there was a village of Chorwan and Kumwa, and I just don't remember anymore. There was more hills to remember than there was towns, I guess.
Yeah, maybe this map, does that help you remember any? So that's the 38th, and you said you were in
I was
North.
up in here, in this area here. North of the 38th, but I don't see any of the little villages on there that I was close to.
Okay. So you arrived in Busan and then you went up to North Korea.
3 days later, I was in North Korea.
And at the time, was there much difference between what you saw in Busan and when you saw and what you saw in North Korea?
Well, I didn't get to see much because we never got into any area. I can remember when we boarded the train in Busan, there was a lot of little kids there down by the track, and they were begging for, they could say chocolate and chewing gum, and that's what they wanted. And I remember seeing this one little fellow. He had both legs off at the knees, and he had his stumps wrapped, and then he was, I don't know, I think he had a stick or something in each hand because he had to crawl on all four, you know, and he was crawling on the cinders along the track there. And I remember the rest of the kids did let him get some stuff, you know, like chewing gum or something, that they did let him get some. And I've often wondered what happened to that little fellow. But other than that, you know, I never got close to the civilians. There was no civilians around where I was at. So I never got to, I have quite a few pictures of people over there, but they were all taken by some other GI.
Can I take? I'll hold it for you, just so it's on the ground. So you said you were on the front lines most of the time when you were there. Yeah. How was it to fight? What did you feel like when you were fighting the war? Was it sad for you, or did you think you were doing your duty, or what kind of emotions did you experience as you were fighting?
Just a job you were told to do. My first wedding anniversary was in North Korea. My second wedding anniversary was when I was on my way home from there.
And so you were already married before you went
Oh
to...
yeah, I left a young wife and a little boy when I went over there.
And surely you missed them while you were there?
That was probably the hardest thing I ever had to do, was say goodbye to a young wife and know I was going off to war and they might not ever see me again. But somebody was looking out for me, and I left there without a scratch. So I was one of the lucky ones.
And when you were when you were stationed, did you interact much with North Korean soldiers or Chinese soldiers?
No, they kept their distance. We made sure of that.
Yeah. Did you participate in any battles that you recall?
No. Well, there was a lot of hills, and I don't remember all the names of them, you know, but we pounded the heck out of them.
What was the most difficult experience that you had during your service?
probably just leaving this country, wondering if I was ever going to see it again. There was about, I remember the night when we left from Seattle there was about 5,000 troops on that ship. I think just about everybody was on deck, one deck or another, and there was a little band down there on the pier playing Harbor Lights, and I was watching those Seattle lights and wondering whether or not I was ever going to see them again. But I did, so that's why I say somebody was looking after me.
So what was everyday life like? What was your daily routine? And what was your specialty as well?
Oh, everyday life was, there was no modern conveniences, no electricity, no running water, outdoor biffies, or wherever you were when Mother Nature called. But, and you always knew you were going to be out in a certain amount of weather, day or night. It was, when I look back on it, it's kind of hard to believe that we lived that way for all those months, but I know there was thousands and thousands of other guys that, not just in the Korean War, but other wars that have lived the same way.
Do you recall any friends or comrades that you had?
Yeah, I have a friend that I went to basic with and went overseas with, and he lives down here in the southeast part of the state. I've stayed in contact with him. We weren't in the same unit overseas, but we went over on the same ship. And another fellow down in Iowa that I've stayed in contact with, we shared a bunker over there for a while. I've visited with him since he got back. But the thing was that at that time, when all the people that you went through basic with, if they went over there, they split you up after you got over there. So whatever outfit needed replacements, why, that's where you went, and so you kind of lost track of the people that you went through basic with.
Was it ever lonely for you?
Well, I always thought about my wife, but there was so many other things going on.
Do you recall any specific battles that you were a part of?
No. No, not really.
And what did you say that your specialty was?
Well, I had a little bag phone, and I had a direct line to a gun battery. And so when I dialed up the phone, the guy on the other end, the first thing he heard from me was fire mission. And so he got all the information that they needed to fire a mission.
How did you feel about fighting and killing and this warfare in general at the time? Do you recall?
No, I just knew it was something that was told to do. Never give it another thought, really.
So do you remember the last place you were before you left Korea?
No, I left from Incheon. Never got into Incheon proper. Went by there and had to go out on a landing craft, and because the water wasn't deep enough for the big ships to come in, and so they would scoot up alongside the big ship, and you had to climb up that rope net to get on board.
Wow. Were you happy?
Well, you bet. When we came back into San Francisco and docked there, and I remember Doris Day was supposed to be singing for the troops that day, but she wasn't able to make it, and so they had some other young lady there, and I don't know, she was probably as good a singer as Doris Day. But when they called my name and I walked down that gangplank, there wasn't enough words in the dictionary to describe how happy I was to be home.
And when was this?
Well, that was in May of '53. I was home before the war ended.
What did you think about Korea when you left? Did you have any hope for it?
Well, I guess I never gave it too much thought, but we did accomplish something over there. South Korea is a pretty progressive little country now, due to what we did for them over there, I guess.
Absolutely. You know, now we're the 11th largest economy in the world, and I'm sure you've heard of companies like Kia and Honda and Samsung. How does it make you feel about how do you feel about your service, given that it is what transformed South Korea into what it is today?
Well, we did accomplish something, and I think it's something for some of these other countries to think about. Like North Korea is probably a world of difference from South Korea. I can feel sorry for those people in North Korea. I'm sure there's people that live in South Korea that have relatives in the North, vice versa, and it must be really tough for them to know that some of them have got a good life. I have a grandson that teaches English over there in Korea, and he's married to a Korean girl now, and I understand he's coming back to the States now, but he's been over there for several years.
Have you been back?
No, I had an opportunity to go, but I knew that I would never be able to get to the area where I was, and so it's a long flight over there, and I could have taken my wife along too. They provide everything after you get there. So it wasn't a matter of money. It was just that I kind of dreaded that long flight.
Well, I mean, it was much longer when you were going there back in your service time.
Well, yeah, I was on the water then, so 2 weeks of going and 2 weeks of coming.
So, why do you think that, despite this transformation that South Korea has gone through, it's considered the forgotten war?
something it got labeled with years ago, and it hasn't been washed away since.
Have you tried to forget about the Korean War?
Oh, no. No. Pretty hard to forget an experience like that.
Even though it was the most difficult part of your life to leave your wife and your son, you still don't try to forget? If you were asked to go again, would you go again?
Today, I wouldn't be able to.
Well,
But, well, when you're drafted, I guess you just go, you know. So, yeah, there wasn't any question about whether you go or not. You just go.
are you proud of your service?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I feel we accomplished something over there. Even though it wasn't called a war to start with there, why, I think we helped out that little country. My biggest disappointment is that when World War II ended, Korea should have never been divided. I don't know who made that decision, but Korea was controlled by Japan for years, and we beat Japan, and we had a ceasefire or settlement with Japan, and we should have never divided Korea. I don't understand why that was ever done. I could see, like in World War II, where Germany was divided because the Russians came into East Germany and conquered part of it, and we come in from the other side. But now we have Germany united again, and it's a shame that Korea got split, because North Korea could be living like South Korea.
I think you have a soft spot for North Korea a little bit because you were stationed there. Is that?
Pardon me?
It seems like you have like a soft spot for North Korea because you were stationed there. Is that accurate?
Well, yeah, those people were, a lot of them, had to move south, and I'm sure they left behind friends and relatives, and so it's kind of hard to imagine how, if I had to leave some of my friends and relatives in another part of the country or something, could go see them, couldn't visit with them. So I was really disappointed that you divided up Korea.
Would you like to see them unified again?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, that would, well, it would benefit the majority of the people in North Korea, and it would bring a lot of our troops home. I don't know, we got 20-some thousand troops over there. We could bring those home if the country was united.
How does it make you feel that after almost 66 years the Korean War is technically still ongoing because it was only, temporarily ended with a ceasefire and an armistice.
Well, to me it's kind of disappointing. And of course, this fellow that heads up North Korea there, he's just made that comment the other day that if we got into another war, why Seoul and Washington D.C. would be left in ashes, which will never happen. So it's a shame that North Korea has went the way it has.
So even though the Koreas are divided, do you think that the Korean War was worth it? And your service was worth it?
Oh yeah. Yeah, if we hadn't gotten involved in there, why, it would all be like North Korea, I would imagine.
Is there any message that you want to give to the younger generation about the Korean War and about your service?
Well, I guess sometimes you have to help out another country. Although we've been in a lot of wars that with countries that have never declared war on us, and we've been fighting somebody else's war for years, and we shouldn't have to do that. But I have to give all these young folks a lot of credit for wanting to be in the service and doing what our country demands of them, even though I don't agree with it. You got to give those young folks a lot of credit.
Is there any final thought that you want to leave with this interview about your time in Korea and your service to your country?
Well, I guess being there wasn't the most pleasant time of my life, but it was a good experience. And don't begrudge Uncle Sam for sending me over there.